All right, sounds good.
All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another podcast, another Brothers in Arms podcast. We got some great news this week. Lots of great things happened, and I can't wait to get into it. This is Crazy Gaming, and I'm here with my brother, Infinite AA.
Hello, what's up? How's it going, everyone? I'm here to talk games, and we got some good news, whether it be Nintendo, whether it be Xbox. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, that's for sure. Lots of crazy stuff went down this week. Lots of news, lots of great topics. So we're just gonna start out with little bits and bites before we get into the bulk of everything. So just get into the news and everything. So we're gonna start off with games coming to Game Pass this month, for the month of March.
March, that's what month it is.
Yeah. So there are actually pretty amazing games that are coming. Some pretty big games you see out there that are pretty popular. So we've got Madden 2021. Brand new Madden's coming to Game Pass, and I know if any of you guys are football fans, that's awesome. You're gonna get the brand new Madden coming into Game Pass, and
I want to preface that specifically through EA Play. EA Play is a part of Game Pass and has been since November of 2020, and EA Play is still on track to come to Game Pass for PC, Xbox Game Pass for PC sometime this year. So that's where you're getting Madden from.
Yes, yes, and I believe it's already in Game Pass. It was earlier at the beginning of this month. Uh, we also have Football Manager
March
20.
3rd.
What? March 3rd?
March 3rd.
Yeah, it came in March 3rd. Uh, we also have Football Manager 2021 that is in Game Pass already. So if you're a big fan of soccer, yeah, well, we live in America, so we call it soccer here. Football Manager 2021, brand new Football Manager. That's freaking awesome and exciting. There's a lot. It's sports themes for this month. The next one is NBA 2K. So all those basketball fans out there, go on to Game Pass, get NBA 2K, and you get that on Game Pass. So that's awesome. And then the other last one is Star Wars Squadrons, which will also it's also available through EA Play. It's a partnership thing they have, so you can play it if you're a subscriber to Game Pass. So those are the major games, big games that are coming out that came out this month. They're pretty much already in Game Pass. So if any of those you like any of those games or big sports fans, go in Game Pass and enjoy, have fun. So
Well, I got some more games to point out that
yeah,
actually are
go ahead, bro.
coming later this month. So we got actually in April. This is actually not this month, but in April, NHL 21 is coming as well. So sports fans, Game Pass, all the newest sports games are going to be in Game Pass, but pretty much by April for the most part. Hockey fans, basketball fans, soccer fans with Football Manager, not FIFA, as well as Madden fans. That's pretty awesome. And so we had last month, we had some good games come. We kind of talked about this, but anyone who doesn't really know what Game Pass is, it's a subscription service where you pay one monthly fee and you get access to 100 to 200 games to play on a service. Might even be close to 300 games. $10 a month or $15 a month, depending on if you want extra perks and features. But last month we had Dirt 5 come. That was a new game by Codemasters, who recently got bought by EA. Had Elite Dangerous come out, and Super Hot Mind Control Delete, as well as Killer Queen Black. Code Vein. Code Vein is now available on Game Pass, as well as Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, Wreckfest. Final Fantasy games have been making their way into Game Pass. And we now have Final Fantasy 12, The Zodiac Age, in Game Pass. That was available last month. Jurassic World Evolution, that one came out last month, as well as Stealth Inc. 2, and Wolfenstein Young Blood. And I actually want to preface the whole Wolfenstein game coming to Game Pass, and we'll get on this more later when we talk about Bethesda, but we'll be seeing some good Bethesda games come to Game Pass. So Wolfenstein is just the beginning. And obviously we talked about Star Wars Squadrons, which I actually am interested to try that game out. That game came out in 2020, like September 2020. It's a game made by EA, and it's mostly dealing with being in
A pilot. It's like space
yeah,
combat. Yeah.
space combat.
Which it looks really freaking awesome. It's really fun. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it does. So that's just some of them. I want to talk about games leaving though. Leaving in March. This is a big one. Big one for games leaving in March. March 15th, we have 5 games leaving. So we have the Alvestia Chronicles leaving. We have Astrologaster, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So if anyone's interested in playing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night and they don't want to pay for the game, you better be paying it by March 5th, playing it by March 15th, or you can have a discount if you want to buy it if you're a Game Pass subscriber. But we also have Kona, is leaving, and a big one. This is a big one that's leaving. That's actually been in Game Pass for a while. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is leaving Game Pass. So that's the Witcher 3 with the Wild Hunt expansion. No longer going to be in Game Pass. So that's pretty much what we got for Game Pass for the most part, I believe.
Yeah, stuff coming to Game Pass, stuff leaving Game Pass, and Game Pass. It's a great service. I love it. For a subscription, I get to play hundreds of games, with both on PC and on Xbox, and uh, yeah, I get to experience new games that I never thought I'd even play, that I probably would have never even played without Game Pass, and great experiences, and that's all we got with Game Pass. New games coming in, and games leaving. But speaking of new games going places, uh, we have Forza Horizon 4 that's actually going into Steam. It's isn't it in Steam already? I thought it was.
No,
No.
well, it just barely
Yeah.
dropped into Steam earlier this month. And if you want to get an exclusive car in Forza Horizon 4, which is a Porsche, yeah, you can log in by March 14th and you will get a Porsche for free. And this is in celebration of the game coming to Steam.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's exciting.
that's pretty
So,
cool.
yeah, they're that's crazy. You have Xbox that's bringing all their games to Steam. They and they're not gonna bring all of them to Steam. I don't think they will. But just like major games, they want people to experience games, and basically pretty much because Steam, it's kind of already on the Windows platform. It use a lot through Windows and Windows software, but I think it's kind of like a little bit of enticement of here's this. Um, what if this? So they what if it's just an excitement? They're like, okay, we'll give it to Steam guys, and then soon they're going to be announcing Forza Horizon 5. What if that's the reason why they're doing it?
Well, that's actually a good point that you're making. I think we're going to see Forza Horizon 5 being announced in June at E3 with the digital E3 showcase. I honestly think we will see Forza Horizon 5, and I think it will come out in September, maybe August to September, somewhere around there. I don't think it's going to be earlier than August, though, but I honestly think out of the Forza games that's coming out, I think Forza Horizon 5 is coming out this year, and then Forza Motorsports is going to be coming out next year, late 2022, because we know as of 2020, Forza Motorsports was leaving early development, or it was still in early development, but it was leaving late 2020. So it's kind of in mid development right now, and I think late development will be next year. Next year, at the end of next year, they'll ship the game. So Forza Horizon 5, look out for that, and Forza Horizon 4 is coming to Steam. That's something. So if anyone plays on Windows and has loves Steam and has wanted to dabble in some good Forza games. Forza games are one of the best driving games there are out there. I mean, it used to be Need for Speed, but Forza's kind of taken over as one of the best games. And one topic that we actually didn't get to last week that I wanted to talk about tonight was Gran Turismo 7 is supposed to be a really good game too, and that game has been delayed. We don't know when Gran Turismo 7 for the PlayStation 5 is even going to come out, and I really hope Gran Turismo 7 actually takes a homage from a lot of different games and just makes a competing game for Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon series, because the Gran Turismo series hasn't been competing with Forza series for quite some time, and yet neither has Need for Speed. So I want to see EA up their game with Need for Speed, and EA owns Dirt series now, so they have a lot of racing series, and they can have teams help out, like Codemasters maybe help out on Need for Speed, or the Need for Speed developers help out on Dirt, the next Dirt game. But that's about racing and a lot of racing games right now, and that's just something that was I wanted to say about that.
Heck yeah, yeah. Uh, I like it's better if things are delayed than coming out broken and half done pretty much. So that to me that's a good thing. But yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah, hearing something gets delayed, especially if you've been excited for that. Uh, but just know it'll be worth it. It'll be a payoff. Just gotta be patient and just gotta wait. Uh,
Yeah,
so
delays can be a bummer, but we just gotta wait, like you said.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So we have the new consoles. We just got we got new consoles the end of last year, um, from Xbox with the Series consoles and PlayStation with PlayStation 5. But what about Nintendo? Like Nintendo Switch, they going to be releasing a Nintendo Switch Pro, and when is that going to be, and what does that look like? Like,
Well, there are rumors about a Nintendo Switch Pro. So one thing I want to point out is Nintendo wasn't really following traditional generations, and they never really have for the most part. I mean, they came out with the Wii U in 2012, and the Wii U just did not hit the mark. And 5 years, not even 5 years later, 4.5 years later, they released the Switch, and the Switch hits almost all marks and just it hits the ball out of the park. People love the Switch. It's selling really great. It always really has from the start. And it's kind of the hardware, even for the time back in 2017, was kind of lagging behind. You saw PlayStation 4 Pro being released in late 2016, which already had upscaled 4K, like upscaled to 4K, good graphics and a lot of stuff with a Blu-ray player and everything. I mean, it obviously the Vita didn't work out so much, so they weren't competing when it came to handheld gaming or portable console gaming or anything like that. But the Switch has a 720p screen, 1080p docked, and playing Breath of the Wild while docked, which I've been playing Breath of the Wild lately. The frames drop from it tries to hit 30 as much as it can, but sometimes the frames drop to 20, and I can tell the stutter. And they really need to get something fixed, whether it's from the CPU or GPU. Just beef up their hardware. But I want to go into a little more about these rumors. Um, Bloomberg actually, so Bloomberg is more of a business site that actually does some things in gaming. So Bloomberg actually talked about how um, Nintendo is ordering a bunch of OLED screens and having them being made in their Samsung screens. So they're talking about a 720p OLED touchscreen for a new device for production as soon as June. So a lot of people are speculating that this is going to be a Nintendo Switch Pro that has a 720p OLED. And I'll tell you, even though the resolution isn't going to change if this is true, the resolution won't change, but going from an LCD screen to an OLED is already going to change a lot. It's going to make things look a lot better, even though the resolution is not technically being upped. So that's something that's been talked about, right? And they also talked about 4K resolution. Now, this is not going to be a native 4K. So Nintendo is working with NVIDIA with the DSL. DSL is a specific type of technology that helps upscale games to 4K while keeping frame rates stable. And that's something they really need. So when you talk about a docked 4K resolution on a Pro and a handheld 720p OLED, I really think they should do 1080p OLED, but it looks like from these rumors it's going to be a 720p OLED. But 4K resolution docked, which is upscaled to 4K. It's not true 4K. It's using DSLR, which, like I talked about, look it up. It's NVIDIA technology. And It uses Tegra-powered units, right? So the original Switch design has a 6.2-inch LCD screen. While we could get a bigger screen, if you change the bezels and you make those bezels smaller, you don't even have to make the console that much bigger, right? You could just make the screen bigger, change the bezels, especially because OLEDs, they take up less room than LCD screens do. So we're talking a possibility of a better, I mean, back this. So if we want to talk about Nintendo Switch, they released it in March of 2017, and then they released 2018, late 2018, early 2019. They released a new version that was just a new SKU. They didn't advertise or anything, and it was just a version that had a little extra battery life, right? Then in late 2019, September 2019 to October 2019, they released a Nintendo Switch Nintendo Switch Lite, which was just a it's a handheld only gaming device, which you can't take the Joy-Cons off. It doesn't technically switch, and it's called a Switch Lite. But now we're looking at a possibility, a really good possibility, that by late 2021 there will be a Switch Pro out in the wild. What are your thoughts on that, crazy mate?
It's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait because it is very well needed. I think. I have the Switch Lite, and you have the Switch, uh, but especially with these next consoles and the leap that's coming with that, new games that are going to be releasing for that. If and I know we see games like The Witcher 3 gets put on the Switch, and these games like that. If they want to keep being able to do that, but yet be able to downscale, they've got to get a better system. They got to get an upgraded system to kind of keep up. There's no way it's gonna go up against the power of a PlayStation 5 or a Series X, but it just needs to manage and be able to run games like a little better, with better frame rate and more consistent frame rate, with gra- well better resolution, and with a Switch Lite, or not a Switch Lite, a Switch Pro, them making that and being able to do that, and to be able to keep pushing forward in with their technology, and with the power of their console, can make it so they can keep getting more games, and more recent games put on the Switch, which is really good for them. And so I think it's necessary, and I think they are doing it. They are doing it. There's no way they wouldn't be. It just doesn't make sense for them not to do it. And especially with this rumor of them buying screens from Samsung, it looks like it's becoming more and more possible. And I can't wait to see what upgrades they implement into it. Is it just going to be a better screen, or what other things are they going to boost up with the Switch, with the Switch Pro?
So
do you know?
that's a good question.
Yeah, when do you think they're?
Go. When do I think what?
Sorry, go ahead. What you were gonna say?
Well, I think you're right that they need to do more, and I think they will. So first off, I actually want to preface this and say that I think they should call the next Nintendo Switch, which is just going to be it's not going to be a next generation, it's going to be a mid-gen refresh, right? And yes, it's a podcast. I want it to be called the Super Switch, because they had the Super Nintendo Entertainment System right after the NES, then Nintendo Entertainment System. So I think that it would be really cool if they called the quote unquote Switch Pro, or the the mid-gen refresh, if they called it the Super Switch, Nintendo Super Switch. But anyways, that aside, I do think that they're going to upgrade maybe the CPU, the GPU. If they're going to be outputting 4K, they're going to have to upgrade the GPU. And that means graphical effects. And it's not going to be native 4K, but that means graphical effects. So when you see better lighting or better particle effects in the new Breath of the Wild trailer, that's something they're actually wanting to emulate. The first Breath of the Wild didn't have the best particle effects, didn't have the best lighting. Well, with the second one, they're really wanting to change that. And to me, we can get into the weeds with Breath of the Wild 2 and why more hasn't been shown. And a lot of people have rumors, theories that Breath of the Wild 2 has been kind of pushed back and not shown and kind of hidden because of the next Switch, the Switch Pro or the Super Switch, right? I think because of this, they're not wanting to show Breath of the Wild 2 yet because they want to unveil a new Switch before that. And it's looking like it might have a new dock, a bigger screen, more graphical power, better resolutions, better battery life. It's looking like it's gonna have a bunch of different stuff, that it isn't just gonna be like even a better CPU, and I would hope better storage too, because
Oh
quite
yes.
frankly, the storage on the Switch is kind of not that great. So yeah, when we talk about Switch, right? They don't always go after. Nintendo's not going to always go after power. They did in the past. They don't now. They go after. You could say they're gimmicks, but I think they're smart gimmicks. So when you think about something like a handheld console that's also a home console, to me that's amazing. I love taking my Switch. I love playing my Switch on the road. I also love playing it on my monitor, and I can do both of those. I can in one day I can play them while I'm in a passenger seat of a car, and then I could be at home at night playing with a Switch Pro controller in my hand and playing Breath of the Wild, which to me that's awesome. But the other thing I did want to point out is that there's also another rumor. So we talk about the Switch, the Super Switch, but also there's a rumor of a Switch XL, which is going to be the same power and pretty much the same build and makeup of a regular Switch, but it's going to have a bigger screen. So it's going to be just an XL version of the regular Switch. So that is actually another rumor in the rumor mill about Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. Well, that would be kind of cool, you know. It's like you upgrade the power, and then you kind of have the two sets of consoles, one that's just the smaller end, and then one that's the XL on the bigger end. Kind of like, because even the Switch Lite is smaller than the regular Switch, so kind of like that. But still, is it still going to be the same? You'll still dock it, be able to dock it and take the Joy Cons off.
Yes, the Switch XL, you'd still be able to, as well as the Super Switch. You'd be able to do that as well. They're just leaving the Switch Lite alone for now. Maybe they'll do a revamp on that in a couple years after this, which I do believe fall 2021 or holiday 2021 is going to be. And yes, that's a lot of SKUs, but I think mid-gen refreshes is what the industry is moving towards. I don't think we're going to see a brand new PlayStation next gen in the next 4 years. I think there will be a PlayStation 5 Pro, and I think there will be an Xbox Series X2. I think those are things that are going to happen in the next 4 to 5 years, but I don't think we're going to see a new generation in that time, because mid-gen refreshes, the industry is kind of moving towards that as it is. So
Yeah, you take your hardware and for a new generation, and you take everything and you beef it up and you make a massive leap to the next generation. But then they kind of fine tune it, make it smaller, make it a little better as much as they can, fine tune the hardware that they have, and that would be a next gen. That would be a generation refresh, pretty much. Yeah.
yeah, a mid-gen refresh. So one thing I do want to talk about specifically is, so we have 2017, March 2017, the Nintendo Switch obviously comes out, and Breath of the Wild is a big hit. Okay, it's a launch title, and it's a console seller, right? We got that game coming out, and we had another, and 2018 was a big year for them. So 2017 and 2017 was good. 2018 was it pretty good, right? 2019 was good, but we had a new Zelda game, which is actually not new. It's a remake. So we had Zelda Link's Awakening Switch remake come out at the same time that the Switch Lite came out. This was the September of 2019. So now, what games do we have that are on the back burner right now for Nintendo that they still are needing to put out? It's been a little bit over 4 years since Breath of the Wild came out. So it's not absurd to think a new Breath of the Wild 2 could come out at the end of this year. And I think it might be a launch title for a Super Switch, right? I really think that is something that could be the case. And then we
Oh,
have
that
some
would
big
sell. That would
games coming out next year.
just alone having Breath of the Wild released alongside a Super Switch, or would be huge. I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
it would create so much sales. There would be so much hype, because that game, I believe it. I believe that it sold like how much, like more than even the consoles did.
Well, I've heard that there was anywhere from 1 to 2 copies of Breath of the Wild sold for every Switch, which seems a little absurd to me, but that's what I've heard. I've heard
Yeah,
there was
that's
more
what I heard
copies of
too.
Breath of the
That
Wild,
that's
and in the first couple months after the fact, I'm pretty sure there's been more Switches. But Breath of the Wild is a really good selling game. It sold like 20 to 30 million consoles copies by now, and we do have more consoles out there. We have about 50 to 7 million consoles, I believe, out there in the wild of switches. So you do have way more consoles now, but in the first month or two, I think Breath of the Wild was selling more than the consoles themselves.
yeah. When they first, so it's a huge game. It's and you're are just doing that alone will sell consoles. Will sell your console and boost you up and get a lot of hype and a lot of talk around Nintendo, you know. And if they don't do that, I think that's a massive mistake. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We always gotta wait and see. But I think there's a Super Switch. I like that, bro. I like the name of the Super Switch because you got the Super Nintendo, now the Super Switch. I think the Super Switch is going to come out this year. I think it's going to come out this year and alongside Breath of the Wild. That's just my opinion on it.
I think this is true. I mean, rumors came out last year about a Switch Pro, and Nintendo shot them down. Now we see rumors coming out again this year about a Switch Pro, and Nintendo has not shot any of these rumors down. They've kind of just ignored them, like they didn't even happen, right? To me, I honestly think at the end of the year we'll see it. And back to the Breath of the Wild thing, we do got to realize Breath of the Wild came out on both the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch, so that could be a reason there were more copies of Breath of the Wild sold than Switches at the time, because it did come out on 2 different consoles, and there were
Yeah, that is
13
true.
million Wii U's out in the wild. I mean, that's not a great number, but 13 million Wii U's out in the wild, that still could be a good amount of copies for Breath of the Wild. Anyways, that's about it right now for the Switch Pro. We'll keep everyone updated on what's happening with Nintendo Super Switch or Nintendo Switch XL. And if there's any news that comes out later this year, we'll definitely be talking about it. So we got some more Nintendo news to talk about. So hit it off.
Yeah. So we've got Pokemon, new Pokemon remakes coming to the Switch, uh, which ugh, which is Diamond and Pearl remakes. The Diamond Pearl remakes. That's coming to Switch. Do you know when that is?
It's going to be late 2021 release window. It was just announced on February 26th on a Pokemon Direct stream. So this is different than the Nintendo Direct that we had talked about last week. It's a specific Pokemon Direct, right? And the games are Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, which is obviously a remake of Pokemon Diamond, and Pokemon Shining Pearl. So one thing with these games are they have been rumored through Pokemon, the Pokemon community and Nintendo community for years and years and years. It's been years since they've been rumored. The last remakes, well, besides the Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu remakes, the last remakes of Pokemon were the Ruby and Sapphire, I believe. Those two remakes that came out on the 3DS in I think 2015 or something, and those were the last ones that had come out. So we were looking at getting these, and we didn't know when it was going to happen. And people were speculating in 2020 they were going to announce it, but then they weren't, because in 2020 they announced DLC for the DLC for Sword and Shield, since Sword and Shield came out in 2019, and then the DLC for Sword and Shield came out in 2020. And now that all the DLC for Sword and Shield is done, now they have announced Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and they're up for pre-order without a release date, a release window of late 2021. And who knows, this could be something to do with the Super Switch too.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of keep it around that launch window of the new of a new Switch. That would make sense. Kind of makes sense. So, not only there's the so we got Pokemon Diamond remake and Pokemon Pearl remake, but there's also rumors of or possibilities of a Pokemon open world. Uh, what have you heard about that, and what's your thoughts on that?
Well, there is not rumors. It's been announced. Pokemon Legends Arceus has been announced for early 2022, and it is open world Pokemon, and it kind of looks like it could be taking some keys and some major points from Breath of the Wild and what happened being able to take Zelda in an open world, which a lot of the Zelda games of the past, like there were some open world elements, but they were pretty like linear in lots of regards. And Pokemon's always been linear for the most part. The most open world Pokemon game I ever seen was the Wild area in Pokemon Sword and Shield. So they are actually going to be releasing a Pokemon open world game called Pokemon Legends Arceus. It's going to be early 2022, and we don't really know much about it. I'm sure throughout the year we'll gain more knowledge about it and a release date and stuff, but right now we don't really know much about it. As well as the Splatoon 3 has been announced for summer of 2022, or in the next year or so, or year or two. So we're going to see a new Splatoon 3. So all these new games coming out, and a ton of new games coming out, really points towards the possibility of a Super Switch, but we're kind of past that. I just keep on talking about it. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the news about Pokemon and the Pokemon Direct. And what do you think about open world, Pokemon going open world?
Uh, Pokemon, like the way it is and the way I know that Pokemon Sword and Shield was, semi kind of open world, uh, but like a complete open world can, I think that could be a lot of fun, but can be kind of overwhelming at times. You know, like you have these big giant open world games that they can be overwhelming. You know, where do I go or and all this stuff. Yeah, there's so much to do. I think it would be a good idea, and it's a possibility, uh, but I think it might not work for some people, for some Pokemon fans that is just like, I like that experience of the path. It takes me through the path and kind of that more linear experience, and but it is interesting to hear about that, and it'll be very interesting to see if that comes to fruition and what exactly they're gonna do do with an open world? Are they going to add a lot of RPG elements to it, or is it just going to be open world? That's a thought and thing to think about.
Yeah, that is something to think about. But when we think about open world in the vein of Breath of the Wild, like, yes, there's what do I do? What do I do first? This and the next thing. But they had a really great tutorial, and then that game just exploration is so easy in that game. It's just I don't feel like I'm being pulled from one direction to another, or I don't know what to do or what I should do. It's almost like it doesn't matter what I do because everything I do is whatever I want and it's correct. Because it doesn't matter what order I attack anything in. Doesn't I can go look for shrines, I can go do quests, I can go cook all I want. I can just explore. I can use my paraglider. I can do so many things in that game, and they need to if they're making Pokemon open world, they have to take a page out of Breath of the Wild's book and make exploration fun and easy. And that's going to be the number one point, having a great open world with great exploration, and then the other things will come after that.
Yeah, something a critique or something I thought about is you have difficulty. How do you manage the difficulty of Pokemon in an open world? Do you have certain areas that have higher Pokemon levels, or is it going to kind of gauge with your level of Pokemon?
Well, that's a good question. I
Because
think
in a lot of,
maybe
and I don't know if you've experienced this in Breath of the Wild yet, of coming across an area that has way too powerful enemies and you can't even beat them. Because of that is another concern of that you have when you have an open world of people can go wherever they want and explore wherever they want, but if they come across enemies or Pokemon that are way too high level for them, then it kind of automatically blocks them from that area in a sense until they get high enough level to come back to it.
Yeah, that is something. I have experienced certain parts more early game when I was playing Breath of the Wild, and I went to some towers and I couldn't defeat the enemies there, so I just gave up. But that's just part of it. You can run away from the enemies. It's okay to die, have a game over. You come back to life in the last save point or wherever you were, and you can keep exploring. You just know not to go that area yet, and you can explore more to find better weapons and go back to the area, or you can continue trying to beat those enemies and trying new tactics. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, sure, I get your point when it comes to that an open world game, you're going to have areas that have higher level enemies or Pokemon in a Pokemon game like Legends, but doesn't mean you can't explore certain areas. It just means, I mean, certain areas will be harder to explore, but you can still maybe run from fights or whatever. They'll have to do it in a way that makes it not devastating if you do die, or if your
Yes,
Pokemon do faint.
it will have to be balanced. I think have to be balanced uh, very well and very nicely. But I believe in Nintendo. Their exclusives and their products are pristine and they're really good quality. Uh, so we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm actually excited. It is exciting, hop into a Pokemon world and just explore and just catch them all. I wonder if you'll be able to go to different regions or exactly what they're gonna do about that. But it sounds super super exciting.
Yes, it does. I think that's all the Nintendo news that we actually have for this week. I mean, we kind of talked a lot about the Nintendo Switch, and we talked a lot about a lot of different things, but
Yeah. Nintendo's awesome. Nintendo news, and then stay tuned for more Nintendo news. Every time Nintendo releases some more news, we for sure to talk about it because and for PlayStation, Xbox, and everything in the gaming industry. So moving on to the next topic, uh, I want to talk about two games that have been announced a long time ago, and yet we have not seen them yet. And we don't know what's going on with that, and they say that they're in development hell, but That game is Dying Light 2 and Dead Island 2. So those two games, they're both zombie games, and I can't remember when, but a long time ago, I remember seeing at E3 seeing the Dead Island announcement trailer for Dead Island 2, and then I haven't heard really anything about it since. Like it's been forever, so it's like what's going on with those games? Are they in trouble? Are they ever going to release? And if they do, is it just going to be such a jumbled mess? Or is it going to be a pristine, good experience? And the same with Dying Light 2. What are your thoughts? Have you heard about what's been going on with those two games?
So both those games are similar in some ways. They both have zombie aesthetic and both have a post-apocalyptic world. So one thing that both those games do have in common is they're both made by Techland. So Techland's kind of been in the news last couple weeks and last month about a possibility of an acquisition by Microsoft and Xbox to acquire Techland, or if not that, they might be funding the game Dying Light at least, and possibly even the game Dead Island. So there could be something with Techland where they just don't have enough money right now and they need funding for these games, and they don't have the time and the money, both of them together, to be able to push out the games as early as they want. I mean, we might see during E3, we might see Dying Light being announced, and maybe I don't know which one would come first, Dead Island or Dying Light. And to me, I don't think both of them in the same year seems kind of weird. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on with these games. It is something to think about, and I know we want to hear more about it, and we have a lot of speculation when it comes to Techland and Dying Light specifically. I mean, Dead Island, that's another one that you pointed out, but we had talked about Dying Light a couple weeks ago on our podcast when the news was coming out about Techland and the possibility of the acquisition. So this is just one of those things where it seems dead in the water. It seems like it might not happen, but it could just be funding issues. The game could be going along fine, and that as long as they got more funding, they'd be able to push it out. Or maybe they don't have a publisher for the game. Who knows? I mean, maybe Microsoft's going to be the publisher and they're going to fund the game and they get some exclusive rights, but they're not ready to announce it yet. So they're not showing anything. So we honestly don't know.
Yeah. One quick thing I want to get to first. I want to give a big shout out to Chris Benz and for engaging in the chat and just talking with him and everybody in the chat. You know, that it makes this podcast so much more amazing when we get to engage with the chat and other people. And so, huge shout out to Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's get on to it. So, it is something that's like stumbling. It's like because it kind of makes you worried, you know, for these games when you have when you hear of difficulties with management or difficulties in a studio and difficulties developing a game, it kind of leaves you wondering and it leaves you worried, you know, and and when it's taking so long, usually you have games that take longer time and they're like, oh, they've had 5-6 years of development time of it should be great, you know, that's a long time to develop a game. You have high expectations for it, but when it takes that long and you hear all these things of, oh, development's not going great, they've chopped some certain things and they've switched, they've taken things out that they've put some time into, and they've messed. It seems like they've messed with so much stuff that it leaves you worried about these games And for me, I just want to know if they're going to be okay. I just want them to know that they're going to come out and be the best product that these developers can deliver without the constraints and hassle of executives at the top cramming down their ideas and their ideology on these developers, and it cripples creativity and it cripples the game. I want to know that it's going to be the best game it can be, and from the rumors and from things we've been hearing, it just doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. But hopefully, there still is time until the release date. They still have time. Until they release...
I want to go over what you just said and kind of like explain my thoughts on that, because you are right. When you get games like Cyberpunk 2077 that came out and it had a long time. It took a long time to make the game. People are even saying they started in 2013, and I think maybe that's starting like pre-production, when they start thinking about what they want to do with the game and they're not actually producing the game or anything, but it's more in the idea phase. But you get games that show things too early or have too long of a hype cycle. Sometimes it blows up in your face. We saw it with The Last of Us Part 2. We saw it with Cyberpunk 2077. If the game isn't pristine, right? Another game I want to talk about, there's actually people are praising to no end, and they did not show this game early. They showed this game pretty much at the last moment, and game is Back 4 Blood. Back 4 Blood was shown back in December 2020 at the VGAs, the Video Game Awards, and then it went into alpha, and it's going out of alpha now, and it's going into beta, and the game is planned to launch in June. So what, 6 months before the game ships and they showed the game, right? That isn't as long of a hype cycle, which having a long hype cycle has its ups, but it also has its downs. Like, and having a shorter hype cycle, the same. It's got some ups and some downs. I mean, like, you see Halo Infinite, it's been delayed and delayed. It was shown clear back in 2018. That's almost 3 years ago. And I understand not consistently being able to pump out games or anything like that, but to show a game so early and to build such a hype cycle that many people just aren't happy with the product because they've just dreamed up in their mind what it could be, and they're not really thinking like, oh, I need to temper my expectations.
Yeah, and especially when you see with these long development cycles, you're like, it kind of makes your expectations even higher and even more. Because it's like, you've had all this time, what have you been doing? You've had all this time, and then you come out with a buggy and half done, in some sense, game. It leaves people wondering, and then it kind of hurts your reputation, and especially that hype thing, because it's like, having a hype train too early is, I think, can be really bad for you, because then people can forget about it, and it just becomes into it kind of phases out, and people forget about it, and other greater things in the industry pop up, and other greater games. People show games that kind of take the spotlight, and then when the game finally releases, they look back on that moment, and it's like, wow, this isn't what I expected when they showed it to me. And they've had a lot more time in between when they showed the game versus actually releasing it. It's a slippery slope. There's lots of slippery slopes in the industry that you can get into with games, and you can say, oh, I don't think people should show games that a year early. They should only do it like they did for Back 4 Blood, 6 months, to really keep that hype in a condensed area, and to keep that hype up until launch, versus a year and a half away, and then that hype kind of fades away, and then it can pop back up again. But if it's different from what you've shown, then it can kind of turn some people off of that. But
or if it doesn't hit like perfect when it comes to how smooth the game is. If it has too many bugs, people don't. Obviously, I understand bugs suck, but bugs are gonna happen sometimes. Like that's part of shipping a game and having millions of people play it on day one. Is that there's gonna be bugs. You don't have a million employees to be able to test your game. The only thing I can think there is some sort of flighting, which Microsoft has started toying with, specifically 343, about flighty.
I
And
always thought,
exactly,
yeah, yeah, I always thought that's a good idea. I always think it's good to, it's not a bad thing to kind of show your game in that not quite finished phase and get people trying it out. And then when it comes to actual release day, it's always going to be better because you actually get the feedback from the community and you can find bugs and find problems with your game that you would have never even realized were there on with a small team testing it. So the gaming community loves these betas and loves to be able to test and to help out these developers and to test these games early. And it's a great thing. It's a great partnership, and it's a great way to make the end product that much more better if you don't have a huge, massive team to test your game before launch.
true. And it's just one of those hard things. And I don't know. I really don't know what's going on with Dying Light or Dead Island 2. Part of me wants to believe that it's not as bad of a hiccup as we're thinking it is, but then the other part of me is thinking it probably is a bad hiccup, and that's why they're not showing. I mean, there were rumors, like I said, about Back for Blood for so long, but they didn't show anything. And when they come out, they came out strong. They showed games, and they said alpha in 2 weeks. Alpha's going good. Then they said we're moving to beta, and we're still going to hit a June 11th launch day. I believe it's June 11th. So that's just, I don't always know whether or not showing games too early is the best. I mean, Last of Us Part 2 had a really big hype cycle from 2018 to 2019 to 2020, and it was just this massive hype cycle. And then when the game hit, people just weren't happy with it. And I was happy with it. I was one of them, but a lot of people just weren't. And I think it was overhyped, and they didn't let people temper their expectations. Plus, they kind of lied in marketing, which is never good either.
Yeah, yeah. It it's a thing. You got one chance to release the game. You got one release, and then once it's released and it's out for the world, it's out, and you can't take that back. So it's better to just get it right the first time.
It's
Which
true.
I'm hoping I even if it takes longer, even if it's not until next year that we get it, I'm okay with waiting. You know, as long as it's a quality product you give to us, and not half-assed and buggy. So that's my thoughts on it, and I just I hope I want to see these games be great and to flourish. So that's all with what's going on with Dying Light and Dead Island 2. There's kind of some problems with development, but we're hoping that it turns out to be good in the end. It turns out that it was all that struggle and strife wasn't worth nothing, and then they release a game and it does poorly because they released it too early and not finished.
Yeah, I don't want to see any games do poorly. I mean, the game being good is good for the developers, it's good for the gamers, it's good for the publishers, and then you get sequels that way. I mean, you're not going to see a Dying Light 3 or Dead Island 3 if these games don't hit the mark. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why they don't like show the game unless it's in pristine condition. Who knows? But I do want to ask you, are you excited for Back for Blood? Are we going to be playing that game when it comes out?
Oh yeah, I do want to play that. Like I played a little bit of Left 4 Dead, but I never really got into it, and I didn't really have very many friends, very many people to play with. But I definitely want to play Back for Blood with you, bro. And we'll
Yeah,
definitely
I
do
do
that.
too.
That sounds like a lot of fun, and it's exciting.
It is exciting. I mean, we got to move on to our other news topics, and we could talk about Techland, Dying Light. We could talk about a bunch of different things all night long. We're very passionate about gaming and a lot of things, and when it comes to certain things, like I don't know how long it takes to make a game, or I'm not a developer. That's all I'm gonna say is I'm not a developer, so I can't really say definitively that things should be a certain way or not. I'm not in the business. I'm just a gamer. So I can only give my speculation and my thoughts on the matter. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it. Yeah, like I said, we're not developers. We love games. We love game industry, and we love talking about our thoughts and opinions on what's going on in the industry. So moving on to that, moving on from that, we've got an interview with Jason Ronald. Uh, I I didn't have the time, wasn't able to get and listen to that and watch that, but I know you got and listened and watched some of it, so take it away, bro.
Well, Jason Ronald had an interview and it was on the Iron Lords podcast. So ILP. If anyone doesn't know the Iron Lords, they're a group of 5 people that get together. They talk games every Sunday. They named their podcast basically off of they basically named it from Game of Thrones. They are the Lords. There's Lord Cognito, there's Lord Sovereign, there's Lord King David, there's Lord Addict, and others that come on the show. But they are very high on Xbox for the most part. They talk all gaming news, but they're very, very high on Xbox, and they were able to get Jason Ronald on their show. So Jason Ronald is the head management of just creating the consoles pretty much. I don't know his complete name title or job title, but creating the consoles, um, that's pretty much who did a lot of the work. I'm not going to say all the work because he's an engineer. He did a lot of work helping engineer Xbox Series X and S as well as Xbox One X. So they had an interview. I listened to a little bit of it. I wasn't able to listen to it as much as I wanted to. There's kind of some audio issues with the podcast too, but if you want to check it out, I would recommend using headphones and check out the podcast. Mainly one thing I do want to point on is that Jason Ronald specifically talked about in this interview how they've moved from device centric. Xbox has moved from device centric to player centric. And to me, that is critical in Xbox's success. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, of course. It they want to bring the games and bring all the games to the players instead of bringing the players uh, to the games, because that's kind of what you have to do if you have one box like Sony. In order to get people to get their games, they got to bring the players to their ecosystem, to their box. And with Xbox, they're taking a different approach. With They want it everywhere. They're putting it everywhere, putting it on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer, on your Xbox, and they've got so many options that they're trying to bring the games to the gamers instead of try to bring the gamers to the games, which is the only way they're going to reach their goal of 3 billion gamers is by taking that approach of bringing it to them instead of saying, hey, give us $500 or even $300 for a console, and then you can play our games. Some people it's like, that's too much money. I don't want to spend that much on games, and then because you have a lot of gamers that don't buy very many games even. So you're limiting, so it's even more limiting on that. But with their subscription service, with a subscription service, it's you pay me a little bit and you get all these games. Pay me a little bit a month, you get all these games, and it just opens up the possibilities of more gamers and gamers discovering new games and more games that they never thought they would ever love or ever play. It's and creating new gamers instead of taking the existing ones and just having that. I can see it kind of pushing and helping create new gamers because of $60 is a lot of money for a lot of people. Gaming is an expensive hobby. You have to have these consoles. You have to have a PC, and if you want great games, you gotta have a high-end PC if you want them to play great. But they're trying to open their options and open the options to bring more doors. They're building more doors into the gaming ecosystem and the gaming world instead of having the existing doors and just trying to shove as many and flood as many through that as possible. As we know, console market, it's not really growing. It's staying kind of
Stagnated.
It's stagnated. So if you want to grow your business and to reach 3 billion gamers, it's not going to be through console. It's not going to be through PC. It's not going to be through one area. It's got to encompass every area of gaming. And bringing, like I said, just plain and simple, bring the games to the gamers, not the gamers to the games.
Exactly. Well, I did want to point out Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. He actually tweeted out, and it was a quote tweet from one of Phil Spencer's tweet. We'll get into Phil's tweet later, but Satya Nadella tweeted out again just yesterday about hitting 3 billion gamers. He talked about that in his tweet, and their goal is to try to get as much gamers in the ecosystem as possible. And they're not gonna, and they're doing it by bringing the games to them. They're not saying, "Hey, if you want to play our games, come to us." They're saying, "Hey, do you want to play our games? Here you go." There's such a difference in the way that they're going about this.
Yeah, it's already blown up, and we're gonna see everybody else follow suit. They're gonna have to, or they're gonna be left in the Microsoft's dust.
It's true.
Yeah, one thing I did want to point out in the Jason Ronald interview that I do know about is he did say, so we know a lot of these games that are coming out this year were super exciting. You know, we got Halo Infinite, Starfield maybe, speculation, we don't know. But Halo
Outriders
Infinite,
is coming out at the end of this month.
Outriders, lots of great games coming out. And Jason Ronald said that his most anticipated and the game he's most excited for hasn't even been announced yet. So to me, you're like, you have games going up against these massive, huge, popular games, and it's like, what could possibly be more exciting than Halo Infinite or Starfield or?
So, the games he would know, I don't know, man. The games he'd know, we know Starfield's been announced, right? I honestly wonder if it's something to do with In Exile and the game they're making, or Compulsion Games and the game they're making. So Phil said he's pretty dang excited for the Compulsion Games game. And we know Perfect Dark now from the initiative. Phil Spencer also said he was excited about Perfect Dark, right? But Compulsion Games could be their game. I don't know when it's going to be announced, but it could be a bigger hit than people think. And I think maybe Jason Ronald's talking about Compulsion Games and the game that they're making, and he might be really excited for that game. I don't know. Or maybe he's talking In Exile. Or maybe he knows some games by other developers that aren't part of Xbox that he knows something about those that he's super excited for. But I think it's in Xbox. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, I can kind of see that. I kind of agree with that because uh, you have Phil putting Compulsion's game up against in the same sentence as Perfect Dark with the initiative. He's he's saying those two games are one of the games are two games that he's super excited for, and he can see the massive potential in them. I think that could very well be the case. That I think Compulsion is going to blow the minds off of many, many people.
One thing people don't realize when it comes to Compulsion games is We Happy Few may have not been the best game. I think everyone can admit that. I still need to play it, and I do think that the premise was very exciting and interesting and intriguing, but it was the practice, and that didn't. In practice, it just didn't work out as well as people wanted it to, right? So when you get Compulsion games, they're making We Happy Few, and the game's pretty much done by the time Xbox buys them, right? Now they're able to start production of a game with the money from Microsoft, right? From the start. So they can take their true talent, and I really do hope that with the money and their talent, they're making a really good game. And I honestly think they do. I think people just aren't giving them credit because they never had the money and the talent and the time together. Now they have the money, the talent, and the time and the ability to get more talent.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They wanted they're one of the ones that have been growing so drastically, and they want to be a huge studio. They want to be a big AAA studio, and they're trying to push towards that goal. And with the help of Xbox, I think it's very, very well possible because if they're not alone in it too, they can get help from other studios. And if they have a question about something, they're not alone in that. They have the resources available to them now, and which is what a lot of developers want, you know, because of a lot of developers, it's hard to get the resources just to create your next game. So not having to worry about that and just focus on creativity and being able to make the game the best you can possibly make it with a budget, of course, but it's gonna be a lot bigger budget with Microsoft than it would be trying to do it on your own. So I have faith in Compulsion. I believe that we're gonna see great things from them.
Yeah, I think we might, and it might be very surprising.
Yeah,
So
and
that's one thing about the interview that I actually didn't catch that you caught. So that's very interesting to talk about that it could very well be that game.
yeah, so I I just and we know that this week there's supposedly be um tomorrow a Xbox
Hmm?
I can't remember
A
what the name.
Xbox Wire post
No,
or
like
podcast?
news coming with Xbox or an Xbox event. There it was. An Xbox event rumored to be tomorrow in this week's, but we're a lot of people are pretty sure that it's going to be tomorrow, is sometime this week. And what we're gonna see along with that, you know, we know
Well,
that we just
we'll get more into the event and the possibility and the planned event of a rumored planned event when we talk Bethesda, because I think it's gonna have a lot to do with that.
oh yeah, I think it definitely will.
We can move on to Bethesda if you want. That's our last. I mean, I kind of want to talk Outriders just a little bit.
Oh yeah,
So,
of course, bro.
I
You're
mean,
excited for Outriders. That's
yeah.
heck yeah.
So, Outriders right now is in beta, and it's coming out at the end of the month. This game has a lot of hype around it. It's kind of like Destiny Light almost. It's kind of weird, but there's a lot of hype around Outriders, and I don't really have much to say more than I urge everyone to at least check the game out. I'm pretty sure Outriders is going to come out on pretty much all consoles with PC, Xbox, PlayStation. You know, I really do think people should check it out. It's coming out April 1st, so the very beginning of next year. It's by Square Enix too, and Square Enix is trying to get into this MMO type, a role-playing game, third-person MMO. It's also made by the developers People Can Fly. People Can Fly they made Gears of War Judgment. They helped with a couple other Gears of War games. It's coming out on Microsoft platforms with Xbox and Windows. It's coming out on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. It's coming out on Google Stadia. It's not on Switch, sadly, but it's on PlayStation 4, Xbox, and PC when it comes to Windows, because when Mac doesn't usually get a ton of games, but and Google Stadia streaming service. So, and it might come to xCloud one day. We don't know, but that's a game that looks really exciting that I'm very interested in, and I think people should check it out. I mean, it's a different type of game, and it may not hit the mark for everybody, and it may not hit the mark for me, but when the game comes out, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, it seems like fun. There's lots of great games, and it's like it's so hard to choose one game over another to play, and you just gotta shove this one in my backlog, I guess, and then it comes along. And I wish I just had more time to play more games, and
me too.
And I'm hoping when we kind of switch over, when our job switches over to 313s, that will give me a lot more time. That will give me a lot more time to play more games, experience more games, and to better the content that we have on this channel and my channel. And I'm super excited for that. But yeah, there's that. So the last thing we have to talk about is the major news. The major thing that happened this week is the acquisition between Microsoft and ZeniMax Media is finally went through. So
completed.
It is completed, and there is a blog post by none other than Phil Dominus Maximus Aurelius Spencer, welcoming Bethesda and all the ZeniMax teams, studio teams, to the Xbox family. And the controversy that everybody is going back and forth on Twitter over one word of some games will be exclusive. But I kind of want to take a little bit of a different approach. When I read this article, the first thing that jumped out to me and the first thing that I realized that he said was, we welcome Bethesda Game Studios, ID Software, ZeniMax Online Studios, Arcane Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog, and Roundhouse Studios, and their passionate global communities to the Xbox family. He's saying right there, he's not only welcoming all the amazing studios, he's welcoming the community, the global fans to the Xbox family. And to me, I look at that and think, okay, what does it mean to be part of the Xbox family? Okay, when you're part of a family, you usually get together. You get together in one area. You're together. And to me, the Xbox family kind of entails the Xbox ecosystem. You know? So I look at that, and that can kind of, when I see that, and I haven't seen anybody really point this out, when he says welcoming these teams and their passionate global communities to the Xbox family, he's kind of saying, hey, Bethesda fans, hey, all these fans of these amazing, great studios, we're welcoming you to the Xbox family. Come to Xbox, you know? You're welcome. Come on, and come here to play these games. Come here to be a part of Xbox community, the Xbox family, also the Xbox community, you know, which means Xbox Game Pass for console, Xbox Game Pass for PC, It mainly means Xbox Game Pass, but it's the Xbox console, the PC platform, you know, cloud game streaming on game with Game Pass and cloud streaming. And to me, I look at that as him saying, "Come, come on, fans of these developers, come to Xbox to get these games to be a part of the Xbox family." And I think that's what that means, is being part of the Xbox family, is being in the Xbox ecosystem. So that kind of, to me, and there's still speculation. They're still leaving it up in the air. Even after this post, people are like, "Oh, after this deal goes through, they've got to. It's a mistake if they don't clarify what games are going to be exclusive." But to me, I don't think they really have to. You know, and I don't think, maybe it would be best if they just don't. You know, just literally say it on a case by case basis. So if say when they announce Starfield, if they say exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem, exclusive, you know, and not say, and just go on a game by game basis, to where people are still speculating, "Oh, is this game," when they announce a game, "Oh, is it going to be on PlayStation? Please be on PlayStation, or is it going to be exclusive?" There's still that question. There's still that talk about Xbox. You know, marketing. Everybody's talking about Xbox right now, and that's amazing marketing. You know, but leaving that up in the air is kind of, I think, can kind of be a good thing. And I don't think they really need to go out and just say, "Oh, all these games are going to be exclusive." Just kind of take your time and just say it when it comes to the games.
I do agree with what you're saying in this aspect. I mean, you don't want to outright just say, "Hey, all games are exclusive," or "all games are going to go to other platforms." You want to leave the door open for the possibility of some games to come to PlayStation, some games to come to Xbox, right? Well, personally, I think it's one of those things where when the game gets announced and it has a release date and it shows the platforms it's on, it's going to show it then and there what it's on. And no one can get mad at Xbox like they did back in 2015 with Rise of the Tomb Raider about exclusivity. They can't get mad at the developers because these developers are under the Xbox umbrella. And what other, you don't see PlayStation's, you don't see their developers, you know, they're not sitting there going, "Oh, we're going to be releasing our games on Xbox," and people don't expect them to. So why should people expect Xbox developers like Arcane Studios or Bethesda Softworks to automatically release their games just because they did in the past? You don't, you know that Spider-Man is being released only on PlayStation, and Insomniac Games has released games on Xbox in the past. Why can't they release games on Xbox again? That's because of the PlayStation owns Insomniac Games. You know, that's one of those things. So when you start talking about that, I do think there are going to be certain games that are exclusive to Xbox and certain games that are not exclusive to Xbox, and maybe there's timed exclusivity for certain games. Maybe Wolfenstein 3 has timed exclusivity for 1 year on Xbox and then it goes to PlayStation. Maybe Starfield is exclusive to Xbox ecosystem for 5 years or forever, who knows? But in my opinion, the smart thing to do with the exclusivity is to make certain games like Starfield. I mean, it's not like back in the day where it was you don't have you have to have you have to play ball my way or go home. It's just not that way anymore. It's Xbox is saying, "Hey, we own this studio. We let them make the games they want to make. We support them. We're going to release their game on our platform. And our ecosystem is bigger than ever before. You want to play on your tablet? play on your tablet. You want to play on your phone, play on your phone. You want to play on your computer, play on your computer. You want to play on your smart TV, play on your smart TV. You want to play on Xbox, play on Xbox. But when it comes to set boxes, you're not going to buy a PlayStation and expect to play all of our exclusive games, right? You're not going to buy a Switch and expect to be able to play all of our games that we published.
Yeah, and see, to me, it doesn't really matter, you know, what they end up doing, because I'm gonna be able to play that anyways. I am a part of the Xbox ecosystem. I have Xbox Game Pass, so I'll be getting it on that. But I really think and feel that, and it would behoove me if Xbox didn't take advantage of this and make the majority of the games and the mostly the bigger AAA exclusives, AAA games exclusive. If they didn't do that, I think it's, to me it doesn't matter, but I think it should to Xbox. It should matter if they want to build Xbox Game Pass and get the most amount of gamers subscribed to Xbox Game Pass. They absolutely need these big exclusives that you can get nowhere else but on Game Pass on the Xbox ecosystem.
Exactly. They need exclusives, and one thing is they don't have to have all games exclusive. We know Phil said new games are on he pretty much said a case by case basis. He said some new games are going to be exclusive. So we know now that some are going to be at least one game is going to be exclusive to Xbox from Bethesda. We don't know what game, but at least one. Now, he said specifically new games, so we know old games are still going to be on the old platforms. They're not going to be pulled off. You're still going to be able to play Elder Scrolls Online on PlayStation. You're still going to be able to play Fallout 76 on PlayStation. They're not just going to pull out the rug from under you. But Starfield, it's a new IP. No one's played it. And sure, you may be hyped, but you've never played any Starfield game because there's never been one out. And they have the total right to be able to say, hey, you want to play this game? Join Xbox Game Pass or buy a console. It's either or.
And see, the thing is, it's not that big of a deal if it is exclusive, because if your barrier to entry is so much less than it would be for PlayStation or for Switch or for Nintendo. It's a monthly subscription of $10 to $15, depending on where you play, to get Xbox Game Pass, and you'll be able to get these games. And you could even just, all you really need with the power of the cloud and with cloud streaming, you just need a phone. And when that finally kicks up and becomes more and more popular and better with people getting better and better internet, that's all you need, and then you're in an ecosystem, and Xbox doesn't care. Xbox doesn't care if you buy an Xbox or if you play on PC, play on Xbox, play on your phone. They want you engaged in their ecosystem. That's what
it's all about metrics.
Yes.
It's not about sales metrics anymore. It's about monthly active users. How many people are playing your games? Where are they playing them? Are they playing them on your platform? And even then, you still think about them moving their games to Steam. I'm pretty sure you still have the option to use your Xbox account on those games.
Yes, yeah.
Still count as a monthly active user, despite the fact that it's on Steam. You're still playing an Xbox Game Studios game, right? There's a lot of news with this Bethesda thing. I want to talk about a couple other points with this. There's the possibility of an event tomorrow, like you said, and I think it very well could be announcing some games. I don't know if it's going to be outright announcing some games coming out. I don't think they're going to show Wolfenstein 3 or Starfield. They might tease those games, but I do think what Xbox said about in their blog post, Phil Spencer said in his blog post at the end of the blog post, is he said, look for news later this week about more Bethesda games coming to Xbox Game Pass. My guess My guess is that games that aren't on Xbox Game Pass that are Bethesda games that we're just going to see some more of them. Maybe we'll see Oblivion part of Game Pass. Maybe Morrowind is becoming back and part of Game Pass. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, whew. I don't know what this rumored event could be, or is going to be, if there is going to be one. I hope at least, because there's still some games of Bethesda's. There's still quite a bit of Bethesda's games that aren't in Game Pass, and at least they're gonna do that. To me, it's like if they don't do that, like they now officially own Bethesda. If they're not in Game Pass and if they don't release them in Game Pass, like what's up with that? That makes no sense. But
Exactly.
I hope it's more than that. I hope it's more than just announcements of what games are coming to Game Pass from the Bethesda teams of ZeniMax. But I am super excited for that because I still have not played Doom, and I wanted to play that. I want to play it, and I want it to come back before I can play Doom Eternal. So I'm hoping for that, and I'm waiting for that, and I hope it's this week because if it's announced, if Doom comes to Game Pass, back to Game Pass, I'm downloading it, and that is one of the first things I'm going to play is Doom.
Doom Eternal or Doom 2016?
Doom 2016, because if Doom Eternal is in Game Pass right now, but Doom
Eternal
2016
is
is not.
So I do think Doom 2016 is going to come back in the Game Pass. Whether it's announced tomorrow or not, I honestly believe by the end of this year, or sometime this year, they're going to be having most of Bethesda's games. We also got to think about this. Forza Motorsport 7 came out in 2017, and Game Pass was a thing in 2017. They didn't have first party titles in Game Pass till 2018, but we didn't see Forza Motorsport 7 come into Game Pass till 2020, 3 years after its release date, and that was a first party title. Granted, that was before they started doing their first party titles come day one, but still, I mean, I don't think they're going to wait that long for all the Bethesda games, but they possibly could. That was one thing where Forza Motorsport 7 took that long.
Oh, that is interesting. I wonder why. Because if it doesn't, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. And especially now that you have that thing out there, the statement out there saying first party games are day and date. And if these games don't come on a Game Pass after you purchase them, that's really confusing to me. And that's confusing to the narrative.
Yeah, but first party game that came out in 2016, that game wasn't a first party game when it came out, so it wasn't a day and date thing now. Before Game Pass was even a thing.
But it is a first party game now.
But if you get into the technicality of it, the day and date doesn't count for old games that were released before Game Pass and their announcement and their promise that all first party games come day and date. That is for new titles, so they could possibly be like, well, honestly, they're going to be releasing them in waves in either way. They have to, as a business model, release games into Game Pass in waves and take games out of Game Pass in waves, because that's what keeps monthly active users, and that's what keeps the subscriptions up, is by constantly adding new games. And sure, sometimes you have to take out games, but you're constantly adding new games. And I do think Doom 2016 is coming back.
Oh, please. At least that one. If anything else. If nothing else.
I think the Dishonored series would be really nice to be in there. I think the Wolfenstein series, they could tease Wolfenstein and Starfield, and they could announce all Wolfenstein games coming into Game Pass. I mean, some of them are on there, but some of them aren't. So they could say, or they could outright say all Bethesda games coming to Game Pass by end of year type of thing. They might do that.
Yeah, that what you said kind of made sense, Instead of just taking all of the all of the games that Bethesda has under their belt, all the IP, and just old games and putting it all on Game Pass at once, kind of trickling it out, to keep that flow, keep a nice good flow of big games mixed with small games, with medium-sized games. could be a real possibility, and actually a lot smarter than just taking all these games at once and just dumping them into Game Pass and be like, okay, here you go. And then the next month's Game Pass releases seem way lackluster compared.
Yeah, that's one of those things. We don't want lackluster games or things to seem lackluster comparably, but also they can enhance old games. They already have FPS boost, right? That was something that we talked about last week, and just enhancing or optimizing games for Series X and Series S. So old games can feel better now than ever with the new technologies they have.
Yeah, yeah, of course, and just with the new hardware, that's going to be a boost and a jump on that, and that's not counting on top of the software uh, that they're trying and they're pushing to implement, with machine learning and all this stuff that's just gonna make it better. And they could try to have to take some time to kind of implement maybe a little bit of upgrades on some really older games, and then they might release it into Game Pass after it kind of has an upgrade, for these new consoles. That could be a case as well, a part of it, of why they wouldn't just dump everything into Game Pass at once and spread it out. But I'm not Microsoft. I don't know. I just hope at least Doom 2016's gets announced this week. Please, please.
Well, I specifically want to talk about how this kind of happened. I mean, back in September 22nd, we all know the story. Well, September 21st, we all know the story. They announced the intent to buy ZeniMax Media, and they put it through. They put it through the courts, and they did it. The EU antitrust regulators, they greenlit Microsoft and Xbox to buy ZeniMax Media, right? That happened. That took 6 months almost, right? That's almost 6 months. Well, let's see. September 21st. Yeah, that's pretty much 6 months that it took for this to happen. So that's a lot of things going on with the Microsoft takeover, where they had to go through the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission as well as the EU Antitrust Regulatory Commission. It's a worldwide company. It's not just a United States company. And now ZeniMax has officially become part of Xbox Game Studios, and they might change the subsidiary to Microsoft Vault or something like that instead of ZeniMax. I mean,
Yeah,
ZeniMax doesn't hold that much weight. I think Bethesda holds a lot more weight, and they're not going to change Bethesda, but they might change ZeniMax name to maybe like Vault Studios or Vault Company or something like that. I don't know. But that it's kind of cool to see it greenlit, and now they can actually start showing things and talking more than they could. I mean, I also want to bring up that a leader of ZeniMax, Altman, his last name was Altman, he died. Robert Altman, he was the co-founder of ZeniMax. He died on February 3rd of 2021 at age 73. So he didn't get to see the company ZeniMax be bought out by Xbox. He ended up dying.
yeah, that's devastation. That's very sad. When anybody loses their life at seems too much of a young age, when it's devastating. You know, it's devastating for the gaming community. To have an amazing creator and not to be able to fulfill. And Phil Spencer went through that and talked about that in the blog post. That he was really excited for this deal and the future partnership between ZeniMax and Xbox, but he's not here to see that fully through. So that's sad, and my heart goes out to their family and all their loved ones and to everyone else in the gaming community that has lost their lives. You know, iDizzy and everyone who cared for him and his family are hurting, and then we have the Nintendo guru as well. It's just it's sad. We have these beloved people in the gaming industry and the gaming community that passed away way too soon, and I hate to see it. It's very devastating.
Yeah, that is very devastating. We don't like to see anyone die, but specifically people in the gaming community seems to hit home a little more than just some random Joe that I don't know, because we have a bond, even if it's just a hidden bond that we don't really know about through gaming. Gaming brings us together, you know, and just it really sucks to see this happen. I mean, and he was a leader, right? But we don't we need to go into the weeds with all that. I mean, it sucks and everything, but we can get back into talking gaming and what makes us happy and what makes most people that love gaming. That just gaming makes us happy, and we're here to talk all games. We're here to talk Bethesda. We're here to talk Xbox. We're here to talk Nintendo. I wish we could be talking a little more PlayStation, but there hasn't been a ton of PlayStation news. The funny thing is, PlayStation podcasts are talking about what's happening with Bethesda, so that's kind of
Yeah,
uh,
PlayStation podcasts are now Xbox podcasts because PlayStation isn't really saying anything, you know, and I want them to, and as soon as they do, I'm gonna be super excited to cover it and super excited for whatever they have coming down the pipeline. But we're just not really hearing from them at the moment, so we just it's it's PlayStation, Sony. We just gotta wait until they're ready to tell us something, or a leak happens. We'll see.
I mean, we talked PlayStation last week when we talked about games coming to PC,
Yeah,
and I
it
want to bring up something that CMBR said in the chat. He says he read the filing with the EU, and Vault was a legal entity set up for a reverse triangle merger. Vault was dissolved into ZeniMax Media yesterday. It was a way to tax structure and keep legal continuity. So that was just some legal mumbo jumbo about creating a legal entity to help with the merger that ended up being dissolved anyways. So maybe maybe Vault's nothing, or maybe they'll bring back Vault. I don't know, but that's kind of interesting. Oh, welcome, Luke. Anyways, we got more to talk about when it comes to this, but it's news that's gonna be coming out at later dates. We don't have all the answers now. We wish we did, but we don't.
yeah.
So
Well, just it's still so exciting, you know, the future, and every more news that comes out, it makes my hype for the future of gaming just so much bigger and so much more. And I love gaming and games and the gaming industry, and I love talking about gaming news and all this, and I'm super excited for the future and for what more news and what more stuff to come out about this, more stuff that we don't even know.
exactly. I mean, some weeks we talk about Google Stadia, and some weeks we go into the weeds about game streaming in general and console sales we've talked about in the past. I mean, Xbox and PlayStation are both doing pretty good with the new generation that came out last year with console sales. I mean, we don't have any hard numbers, but they're both looking to be anywhere from about 5 million to the high number being 10 million. I don't think that's super likely with the console shortage. And one thing I do want to say is it kind of sucks to anyone who can't get a console. I mean, I've been kind of wanting a PlayStation 5, and if I've got my tax return, and maybe I would have bought one if I wasn't saving up, but also if I could find one. I mean, PlayStation 5, I have PlayStation 4, but a PlayStation 5 would be better. It's just better speeds and everything like that.
Yeah, but it's hard for anybody to find consoles at the moment, which hopefully it's they're popping up. They keep resupplying. I see stores constantly now, a lot more than they used to. saying, "Oh, we got new consoles out. New consoles, come get them." And they're, of course, they're gonna be gone within a couple hours. So,
Oh yeah.
but it's a lot more. It's a lot more frequently. There's more out there. The people that have them. So, sometime later in this year, that I'm hoping they should have a steady supply of consoles, so that hopefully maybe you can just walk into the store and grab one. You know.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, with the rumors of Nintendo Super Switch, they're also talking about the high possibility that there could be scalping happening with a Switch Pro or a Super Switch. And I think like there's not going to be, if they're starting production in June, there's not going to be enough by November. They release it in November. So that's something. I mean, scalping, it's a new age thing, especially with COVID. I mean, and the demand for gaming is only going up. So scalping is, I personally don't like scalping. I'm personally one of the people that would never buy a console over retail and tax unless, I don't know. I don't even want to say unless. I don't see myself ever buying a console over retail and tax because to me, that's just, it's not worth it. I mean, I can wait. I can be patient.
Yeah, and I hope these retailers kind of get it under control, and so it's not as bad of a problem, if any, than it was with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox consoles. But I can imagine there will be scalpers, especially with a Switch Pro. You know,
Yeah, I think
hopefully,
that that's going to be a thing.
hopefully anybody who wants one can get one. And I would advise anybody to just be patient. Don't pay double, triple the price for the console on eBay. Just just be patient, save your money, and invest it into something. Because here's what I think
Bigger and better things.
yeah, here's what I don't think some people kind of don't get is they have these new consoles and the power of it, but you kind of have to have some hardware like a TV that's compatible with it to utilize the power of these consoles. Not necessarily with a Switch or a Switch Pro, but with the Series X and the PlayStation 5, if you don't have a TV that's compatible with it, you're not really going to be getting that full upgraded experience. So you're going to want to probably take that money and put it into being able to get the best experience out of these consoles that you can, instead of just paying double to triple the price for the console.
True. I mean, you got a lot of that stuff. I don't know. I think that's it for the topics this week. What do you think?
Yeah, that's if that's everything you have to say about Phil Spencer's blog post on Xbox Wire. And if anybody has not read that, it's not very long, but go to Xbox Wire, and it's Phil Spencer himself wrote this blog post, and it's officially welcoming Bethesda and ZeniMax and all their studios to the Xbox family. So if you haven't, go read that. It's a great, and especially for me, it got me super happy, super excited. So, but that's all I have to say on that. And is that all you got to say, bro?
Well, I just got to say, what does this mean for the future of gaming?
Yeah, that is true. That's a very good question. What does this mean for the future of gaming? You know?
The E comes before the S.
What?
Nothing. I'll talk to you about it later.
Confused me there. Alright, yeah. And we'll just, it's super exciting. We'll wait to see what happens, and we'll keep everyone updated. And so we like to end out the show with just us talking about what games we've been playing, and because this is a gaming podcast. It's about games, and we're gamers. We're about playing games. So, uh, how about you take it away, bro? What have you been playing this week?
So first off, I did play a little bit of Halo 5. I was back on Halo 5 for a couple weeks. I played a little bit of it, but I've pretty much fallen off of that game. I get into this a lot where like with PUBG, I was into that game for like 2 months and then I fell off of it and I got back into Halo 5, which I played Halo 5 religiously when it was out like in 2016. It came out in 2015, but I played in 2016 religiously. But anyways, I played a little bit of that. That's not too exciting. I played the medium. We're getting a lot closer to being done. I mean, if it was just me playing, we'd probably be done. I'd be done by now easily. But me and my wife are playing together. It's hard with the 1-year-old to find time exactly when to play the medium, and we're about 3/4, 7/8 done with that game. We're getting there. And it's been a really interesting, fun game to me. I like the premise. I like the story. It's not super scary to me. I mean, I like scary, but I like more psychologically. Like, let's think about this. What kind of like things can irk my brain, even if it's just creepy. I don't know. But that's one thing I've been playing, and the major thing that I've been playing lately, and it was the topic of today, kind of, was I decided to take the plunge. I've had a Switch since 2018, Christmas 2018, and I've had Breath of the Wild since like not too long after that. It was like a week or two after that, and I never really got into the game because I never allowed myself to. I always was like, I can't play this right now. I got other games in my backlog that I need to play. I always thought that, and every time I'd play, I only play for like maybe a half hour to maybe an hour tops, and I just wouldn't even really get into the game because I wouldn't allow myself to. I took the plunge and I allowed myself to get in the game, and I'm swallowed up whole. I love Breath of the Wild so far. It is an amazing game, so good. Like I'm so sucked in, and the funny thing about that game is I have done almost no quests, but I have like 40 shrines completed, which I've been shrine hunting, checking out the world. I'm unlocking towers. I mean, the game itself just lends for exploration and just
Uh,
sorry about that. I had a cough.
no,
The
no
game
problem.
itself just lends for exploration and just the, I'm not even that into the story to be honest, and I love Zelda for the story, but right now I'm just more into the game itself and the atmosphere. I am doing some quests now because I'm getting sick of the rain, but it's it's one of those games. It's one of those things where I would encourage anyone who owns a Switch and anyone who's ever played any Zelda game, just take the plunge, jump into Breath of the Wild, even if it swallows you up whole and that's all you're playing for the next I don't know a couple weeks to a month. I would say just play the game because it's worth your time. And the second one's probably coming out at the end of the year. I would imagine so. So I would encourage everyone to play the game. I'm gonna finish the game. I'm not gonna stop and not complete it like I've done with many games. I did that with Fable, that compat version of Fable, the original from the Xbox 360. In 2019, I started playing that, and I only got about I don't know a quarter halfway through the game, and I just kind of stopped playing. I just kind of fell off of it, and it's not because I didn't like the game. It's because I started playing another game, and I started playing multiplayer on a game like Halo, Call of Duty, PUBG, something. I don't know. But just take the time, play the game. That's what I'm doing, and I'm going to make sure to complete this game. I'll let everyone know how the game, what my thoughts on Breath of the Wild are. But that's the game that I've been putting the most time into, and I love it because I'm able to play on the way to work when I don't have to drive because I carpool. I carpool with Crazy Mate to work because we work at the same place. But um, yeah, I've been playing Breath of the Wild. I've been playing some Medium and Halo, and I want to try out Outriders and the beta on that. And when the game comes out, I also want to try out Back for Blood beta and play that when it comes out. So there's some games I want to try out. I did start God of War a couple weeks ago. I need to get back into that, but that probably won't happen until after. It won't happen until after I beat Breath of the Wild. But I need to jump into those PlayStation exclusives. Pretty much the only PlayStation exclusives I've really gotten into for the most part are the Last of Us series. I love that series so much, but there are many great exclusives on PlayStation. I have PlayStation 4. I have mini games on there, so that's what I've been playing. What about you, Crazy Mate?
Heck yeah, well, that's yeah, and uh, just like you, I've been playing Breath of the Wild. You've gotten me into it. I bought it from a friend we work with. So he used to have a Switch, but his wife made him get rid of it, and he still had the game. And I have a Switch Lite, so I got that from him, and I've been playing that, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been playing as much as you, but because I have to drive, but it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying the time I put into it, and I'm definitely going to keep sinking more and more time into it. I like just relaxing and laying in bed and playing it. It's a lot of fun doing that. But other than Breath of the Wild, the games I've been playing is, uh, of course, my go-to is Civ Six. It's so relaxing to me. It's such just an end of the day after work, just sit down and relax to a game of Civ Six for an hour to an hour and a half. Uh, so I've been playing that, and I don't think I'll stop anytime soon because that game is just one of my favorite games ever. But I downloaded a new game on Game Pass, Desperados 3, and I've I played a little bit into that, like not too much. I haven't really had very much time to get into that, but so far, it's really fun. The story's kind of funny. It can be kind of funny at times, so I'm excited to get more into that. But other than those three games, that's all I've been really playing this week. Uh, so, but
So that's Civ 6, obviously. 7 Days to Die, right?
well, no, Civ Six, Breath of the Wild, and Desperados 3.
Oh, okay. Desperados 3, how's that?
Yeah, that's I haven't like played too much, but I can tell the humor in there. There's quite a bit of humor. It's I've had some laughs, and the story so far is kind of really interesting. It's kind of good. The gameplay is kind of fun, sneaky. Not really turn based, but kind of has some of those turn based game elements to it. But it's not a turn based uh, game. But it's been fun, and I'm excited to get more into it and to play more and to tell you more once I get more into it. Tell everybody my thoughts on it. That's all I've been playing. So we
Well,
yeah,
I
that's
do
it.
want to bring up about our schedule change for the BIA Gamecast coming up here in about 2 weeks. I mean, we have been doing the BIA Gamecast. We started back in October. We try to hit every single week. We miss some weeks, but we've been doing it at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Wednesdays, and that's going to be changing here soon. So the 24th, we will not be doing it. Okay, the next week is the last week we'll be doing it on Wednesdays. So the 17th of March is the last week we'll be doing it on Wednesdays, probably ever. But we'll have to get back to that. But we'll be switching to Fridays. We will be streaming the BIA Gamecast on Fridays. I believe it'll be 5 o'clock. If not, we'll let you know. Maybe it'll be a
Yes,
little earlier, but I think 5 o'clock will probably work and be the best time.
5 o'clock
Um,
is the plan. It would be the best. It's going to be the best time, and that's what we're going to strive for. 5 o'clock, a little bit earlier. I know people on the West Coast, it's getting a little later, and uh, this podcast gets into the later hours, so we're trying to shift it back to where it's a little bit going to be a little bit earlier, but we can't do that until our shift change, and that's going to be uh, within the next 2 weeks. It will be going to Friday at 5 o'clock, and we hope that's a great time for everybody to uh, come in and join and have a chat and be part of the conversation.
yeah. So specifically, we're doing a shift change at work, and we're gonna be working 3/12s instead of 5/8s. So that's mainly why we're doing this. So we're not able to do it on Wednesdays because we're gonna be working Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and we will be working 12 to 13 hours plus an hour an hour to 2 hour drive, so we won't be able to do on Wednesdays. We'll switch it to Fridays. Do it a little bit earlier than now, like Crazy Mate said. People on the East Coast right now, it's almost 11 o'clock. So our podcast usually ends about 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, because with work and everything, we're not really able to do it sooner than that at the moment. But we're going to be having more free time during the week with 312s over 5/8. So we will be doing it on Fridays at 5 o'clock, which will make it so that, yes, still Mountain Times, still Mountain Time, 5 o'clock MST. So that's what's going on with us. And if that's all you have to say, besides, like, obviously, we'll like and subscribe, please, and
Yeah.
share this out to people. You
Yeah,
can follow.
I just want to again, I just want to thank you, like really, really thank everybody who comes and joins in on the chat, because that just makes this podcast so much more fun and engaging. It makes us want to even morely come back and do this every single week. We love talking to everybody in the gaming community and everything they have to say and the games they love, and it just bringing the community together. Bringing the community together. So thank you so much to everyone who came in and joined us live and talked to us in the chat. We really appreciate you so much. And come back next week. Wednesday will be the last Wednesday, but Wednesday, 7 o'clock. We really look forward to seeing you guys.
Yeah, thanks to all of our new subscribers, and I want to give a thanks and shout out to Pain Rankers, my buddy Jay and B Lou for shouting us out, and getting us some subscribers and some new people knowing about us. I know, like Chris, he came from Pain Rankers. I'm very grateful for Jay and B Lou shouting us out, and letting us helping us grow. So yeah, you could subscribe to us, but obviously you could go on Twitter at InfiniteAA117. You could follow me at BIA Gamecast. That's a Brothers in Arms. Not at, if you see at a Gamecast, don't follow that. That was our old one that got corrupt, our old Twitter that got corrupt. But at BIA Gamecast. You can follow us there. Still getting Crazy Mate to get on Twitter. Not
I'm
on
not a
Twitter yet.
social media. I struggle with social media, but yeah, I'll keep trying and keep trying to get more engaged with. But it's just, I hate the toxicity. I don't like the toxicity, and so, but we'll definitely be.
There is some toxicity on Twitter, but there's also some great people on Twitter as well.
Oh yeah, and I need to just get into it and stop caring and just, you know, be more a part of the community, and because I love this community, I love the gaming community so much. Just bringing people together and talking about games and the hobby we love so much, and it's so enjoyable and it's so much fun, and it's something I love so much. So again, thank you everybody.
See you next week.
We'll see you next week. Yeah. All right. Everyone have a good night.